Okay, as you can see, I left the word vitamin off the word there, D3, because vitamin D3 is not a vitamin. Vitamin D3 is a hormone, and I specialize in hormones. And I actually specialize in the core hormones, such as thyroid and iodine, and some of you may have heard last time my little talk on iodine and how essential it is to your body. Well, D3 is the same. You'll find this is very essential. A lot of doctors write about me. I'm on lots and lots of TV shows because of the breakthroughs that I have done in the field of medicine and hormones. This was in last week's paper, and it's, I mean, the government of the UAE is very, very aware that there is a vitamin D deficiency, even though there's an enormous amount of sunshine here. Vitamin D basically comes from sunshine, but we just don't get enough of it. In fact, we need about 100,000 international units of sunshine a week to have enough vitamin D, and we don't get anywhere near that because most of us cover up from the sun here, and we hurry from our cars into our office buildings. We don't really walk outside, so we don't get much sunshine. So what have I told you? This. I'll just let you read it for a few minutes. In other words, vitamin D is absolutely essential. And that photograph there is a photograph of a cancer cell. It's actually a cancer cell that's putting out little fingers, and that cancer cell enemy is vitamin D. Okay, then there's some other things that the cancer doesn't like as well, but it is vitamin D. And there are many, many benefits obtained from vitamin D. And a lot of women here are very afraid of bone resorption. That is, and that's, you need calcium, and you need vitamin D to uptake that calcium into the bones. The right-hand picture is of a porous brittle bone that has been reabsorbed by the body because of lack of vitamin D. So vitamin D is absolutely essential. But look at the list. Very, very long list. Insulin resistance, and the autoimmune, rheumatoid arthritis, thyroid. I mean, there's a whole lot of autoimmune responses that can be quietened down and controlled with adequate amounts of vitamin D. And it's quite a list. Crohn's disease, which is an autoimmune, inflammatory bowel, psoriasis, migraine headaches. Okay then. Did you know that obesity, and I read a report recently that 50%, or approaching 50% of all Emiratis are obese. 50%. It's quite a high number. And a person who is obese needs 60% more vitamin D than a person who is not. Multiple sclerosis, MS, has increased by 70% in the last 10 years alone, as vitamin D deficiency has doubled. So there's a complete correlation between multiple sclerosis and vitamin D. And this is why. I did a little diagram on the right-hand side. But it affects your DNA. Vitamin D repairs your DNA and it helps to control your metabolic process. Not enough vitamin D, and as I said down there, the cells can get cancer, they can go into a state of not growing, or they can die. So vitamin D is very, very essential for your entire body. And I'm going to read you a list of what vitamin D does in a few minutes. That's going to make you sit up and think, perhaps I should be taking vitamin D. We give most of our patients vitamin D because most of our patients are vitamin D deficient. We've found an enormous amount of vitamin D deficiency. In fact, we have virtually found no one with adequate amounts of vitamin D in the Dubai area. So, vitamin D is not a vitamin, it's a steroid hormone. In fact, there's an interesting correlation that they did just recently, where they found that 99% of all patients who are mentally ill with psychiatric disorders were vitamin D deficient, severely vitamin D deficient. But when we did the other blood markers, they were all within the normal range. There was no significant difference with the general public, such as the blood pressure, the A1C, which is the long-term blood sugar marker, glucose, TSH, taking into consideration their age and their gender. But every 99% were all vitamin D deficient. Let's have a look at multiple sclerosis. All right? It's an autoimmune disorder. And as you saw in this little diagram here, it affects it affects the autoimmune system. And there's a very well-known doctor, Dr. Cambria, who has treated 2,500 patients with high doses of vitamin D. And it's called the Cambria approach, and this is very, very well documented. And according to the papers that he's published, he had a 95% success rate in preventing and curing some of the cases that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. And the vitamin D costs 1/1000th of the cost of the equivalent drugs. Vitamin D is not expensive. Now he was using, we recommend about 5,000 to 10,000 international units a day, but he was using anywhere from 40,000 to 140,000 international units per day to achieve these incredible results. Now, of course, vitamin D, once you start, if you put a patient onto vitamin D, you've got to add a little bit of K2, magnesium, right? You've got to watch out for you don't get too much calcium. And you have to have a little bit of B2, a little bit of C, and omega-3 for these high-dose vitamins C, D's to work. So, how much do you need? I have a list here of what it can do. But for a maintenance dose, we like to use between 5,000 and 10,000 international units per day. But if you have something on those on the list that we just went through before, you may want to use higher or consider using higher doses. There's a well-known book out by Jeff Bowles, who wasn't a doctor, but he had a lot of ailments, and he was able to reverse all the ailments simply by taking super high doses of vitamin D, 50,000 to 100,000 international units per day, and these are some of the results that people who brought his book and followed it had. But this wasn't really based on really scientific and results. But my research assistant, Haya, who's sitting up at the back of the room now, she came up with an amazing list for me just the other day. And the word that I want to use is dramatically. In other words, vitamin D dramatically reduced the illnesses, that is 30,000 units a day, international units a day or more, on the following list. And I had to print this out because I haven't got it memorized. Asthma, 62%. Heart attack, 50%. Hypertension, 70%. And Ada, I believe that this was out of France, this study. Colds, very, very good for colds and flu, 83%. Fatigue, 50%. Osteoporosis, 50%. Type 1 diabetes, 71%. And is also very good for type 2 diabetes as well. Breast cancer, 80%. Colon cancer, 80%. Thickening of the arterial walls, which is a combination of sugar, but also calcium is vitamin D is a contributing factor. Thickening of which leads to heart attack and stroke, 80%. Bladder cancer, 50%. Pancreatic cancer, 66%. Endometriosis, 66%. So that is a fairly impressive list and a fairly impressive percentage of risk reduction. And I would highly recommend that you all consider taking some form, even if it's a maintenance form, if you don't have any of these things, some form of vitamin D in your daily supplements. Thank you.